In the bustling heart of the city, amidst the towering skyscrapers and shimmering lights, there lived two men whose lives seemed to run parallel, yet were destined to diverge in the most unexpected of ways. One was Robert Marlow, an earnest and hard-working individual, whose days were filled with toil and sweat, striving to make ends meet. The other was Lawrence Finch, a man whose every move seemed dipped in luck, an enigma to those who crossed his path. Robert Marlow was what one would call a man of principles. From a young age, he had been taught the value of hard work and perseverance by his father, a modest farmer in the outskirts of the city. Every penny earned was a testament to his dedication, every milestone a result of his relentless pursuit of success. Yet, despite his unwavering efforts, Robert found himself trapped in the cycle of mediocrity, his dreams of wealth and prosperity forever eluding his grasp. On the other hand, Lawrence Finch was a man of extravagance and indulgence. Born into wealth, he had never known the meaning of want or deprivation. His days were spent in leisure, his nights in revelry, as he traversed the city with an air of nonchalance that seemed to defy the laws of reality. To many, he was nothing more than a reckless fool, squandering away his fortune on frivolous pursuits. But to Lawrence, life was a game, and he was determined to play it to the fullest, consequences be damned. The paths of Robert and Lawrence first crossed on a fateful summer's day, amidst the crowded streets of downtown. Robert, weary from a long day's work, trudged along the pavement with a heavy heart, his mind weighed down by the burden of his financial struggles. Lawrence, on the other hand, sauntered through the throng of people with a carefree smile, his pockets jingling with the promise of boundless wealth. As fate would have it, their destinies became intertwined in the most unlikely of circumstances. It was a chance encounter, a fleeting moment of serendipity that would alter the course of their lives forever. In a twist of fate, Robert found himself in possession of a winning lottery ticket, the numbers aligning in perfect harmony to grant him the fortune he had so desperately sought. And yet, even as he held the ticket in his trembling hands, a sense of unease gnawed at his conscience, a nagging doubt that whispered of the price he would have to pay for his newfound wealth. Meanwhile, Lawrence, ever the opportunist, seized upon the opportunity with characteristic gusto, his eyes alight with the prospect of yet another conquest. With a flick of his wrist and a charming smile, he convinced Robert to part with the ticket, promising him a share of the winnings in return for a nominal fee. And so, in a moment of weakness, Robert relinquished his claim to the fortune that was rightfully his, unaware of the web of deceit that Lawrence had spun around him. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, as Robert watched helplessly from the sidelines as Lawrence basked in the glory of his ill-gotten gains. With each passing day, the resentment within him grew, a simmering rage that threatened to consume him whole. How could it be, he wondered, that a man such as Lawrence could amass such wealth through deceit and trickery, while he himself languished in obscurity? But as the saying goes, fortune favors the bold, and Robert was about to discover that sometimes, it is the fool who emerges victorious in the end. For unbeknownst to Lawrence, the winds of fate were about to change course, casting him adrift in a sea of uncertainty from which there would be no escape. It began with a whisper, a rumor that spread like wildfire through the corridors of power, shaking the foundations of Lawrence's carefully constructed empire. It seemed that his luck had finally run out, as accusations of fraud and embezzlement threatened to bring his world crashing down around him. Panic swept through the city like a plague, as investors scrambled to salvage what little remained of their fortunes, leaving Lawrence to face the consequences of his actions alone. And so it was that Robert found himself standing on the precipice of opportunity once more, his gaze fixed upon the horizon with a steely resolve that belied his humble beginnings. Armed with nothing more than a sense of justice and a burning desire for retribution, He set out to reclaim what was rightfully his footsteps guided by the echoes of a past that refused to be forgotten. In the end, it was not wealth or power that defined Robert Marlow, but rather the strength of his character and the depth of his convictions. For while Lawrence Finch may have been rich in material wealth, he was ultimately poor in spirit, his downfall a cautionary tale of hubris and folly. And as for Robert, though he may not have had riches beyond measure, he had something far more valuable, the satisfaction of knowing that he had stayed true to himself, even in the face of adversity. And so, dear reader, let this be a lesson to you, that true wealth cannot be measured in gold or silver, but in the bonds we forge and the values we hold dear. For in the end, it is not the size of our bank accounts that defines us, but the content of our hearts and the strength of our convictions.